This is covering the second 14 generations in the genealogy of Jesus Christ. Shall we take a look at the names? Let us turn to Matthew chapter 1. So we saw all the way to verse 6, Jesse was the father of David the king. David was the father of Solomon. And then verse 7, Solomon was the father of Rehoboam, Abijah, Asa, Jehoshaphat, Joram, Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, Hezekiah, Manasseh, Ammon, Josiah. And then after Josiah, verse 11, comes Jeconiah and his brothers. Okay? Jeconiah, also known as Jehoiachin, or Jehoiakim is the Hebrew pronunciation. Jehoiakim is the Hebrew pronunciation. Okay? There were 3 deportations to Babylon. Okay? First is under Jehoiakim. Second is under Jehoiachin, and then third is under Zedekiah, whose eyes were gouged out. Right? So easy way for you to remember. First deportation was under a Korean king, Jehoiakim. Second deportation under Chinese king, Jehoiachin. And third deportation under Jewish king, Zedekiah. So now, first deportation was 605 BC. Second deportation, 597 BC. Third deportation, 586 BC. Right? But this one is the second deportation. Okay? Josiah became the father of Jeconiah, who is also known as Jehoiakim or Jehoiachin, and his brothers at the time of deportation to Babylon. So from David, we can see here in David, Jesse was the father of David the king. Okay? And then David appears again in this genealogy. David was the father of Solomon by Bathsheba, who had been the wife of Uriah. So beginning of this second 14 generations, positive, bright or gloomy? Would you say? See, David's kingdom, David's reign was divided into 2. He reigned in Hebron for 7.5 years, and then he reigned in Jerusalem for 33 years. Right? This divides the time between Hebron and Jerusalem. But when he united the kingdom, and he was a great king. But when the name Bathsheba appears, it's a bad memory. Right? See, Solomon, he could have just said David was the father of Solomon. That's it. But some versions, some English versions, do not even, it says David was the father of Solomon by Bathsheba. Some versions do not even say the name. The wife of Uriah, who was killed by David because of his adulterous act, his lying, and killing, murder. Right? So at least it covers 3 of the 10 commandments that were broken. Right? And so this history shows a decline in the kingdom. And look at the names. Uriah, and then Solomon was the father of Rehoboam. What happens here? Division of the kingdom. Right? Rehoboam and Jeroboam. Right? And then father of Abijah, we will learn about the history and assessment of these kings in the second lesson today. So I will stop here. But we can see that there was from Abraham to David, rise in the genealogy. There's hope. But from the second David to deportation, there's a decline. And then the third section of the genealogy is from deportation to Jesus Christ. And so it's up and down and up. So in the fourth book, one of the reasons why I dread teaching this about this second section of Jesus' genealogy, it's very gloomy, a lot of sins and dark. It reminds me of us. It reminds me of my acts. But the point, this is a conclusion. Just in case I run out of time and cannot get to the conclusion, I can tell you the conclusion first. The conclusion to this introduction of the second section of Jesus' genealogy is, even though there are so many bad kings that represented Jesus' lineage, there are so many people who made mistakes, even then, God's will to bring about the promised seed is sustained. Even though there was complete darkness, people like Manasseh, right, Uzziah, were evil kings, extremely evil kings. Even then, God saves that little seed of hope and eventually brings about the fulfillment of His promise, His covenant. So, point is, as long as you believe and you know God has given you that covenant, no matter how dark days may become or your life may become, God will surely bring about that bright day. God will save us. Amen. So that is the conclusion. So I can step down anytime I want now. So bear with me. Now is the time to go through the difficult parts. So the History of Redemption series that we have studied, when I say series, we're talking about the books, but when I say History of Redemption, I'm talking about the entire history of the Bible. God's work from the fall of mankind, actually from the creation of mankind, all the way until Revelation chapter 22. The entire story is God trying to redeem us. Right? And so in this History of Redemption, and especially the History of Redemption series, follows the line of the covenant from Adam. I'm just mentioning the main people, big people: Noah, Abraham, Moses, of the Israelites, David, the prophets, and Jesus Christ. Jesus, and finally, us. And how do these covenants work? We're going to study about that today. But in order for us to understand about these covenants, we have to first understand some concepts. This is the title of the book, God's Profound and Mysterious Providence. The History of Redemption series introduces God's administration. Okay? The most important concepts introduced in the series are God's determination, administration, covenant, providence, and etc., sovereignty, and so on. But these are the four main thick, heavy topics: determination, administration, covenant, and providence. What do they mean and what do they signify? First, determination. Determination is God's will that He has decreed from before time. When I say before time, Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." we only think about the creation of space, heaven and earth. But that is the beginning of time also. Right? In the beginning. That's the beginning of the beginning. So before time, before the limited time of, and that what's happening in the limited time is called history. Right? But God is before history, before that limited time. And even before that time, before anything, even time was created, God has determined a few things. And in general, the first thing, the kingdom of heaven is already determined and prepared from before. Meaning, the kingdom of heaven will be given to us and will be granted. Salvation of mankind in Jesus Christ is also decreed from creation. So Jesus is needed no matter what in order for us to be saved. Jesus' cross is also predestined. The end of the world will also come as decreed. So this is basically telling us, as Jesus said in Revelation, I am the Alpha and the Omega. And Isaiah chapter 46, verse 8 through 10, Isaiah 46, 8 through 10 says, from the beginning I declare the end. So even from the beginning, God knew what was going to happen. Every little thing that is going to happen all the way until the end, because He's able to declare the end from the beginning. Proverbs 19:21, many are the plans in a man's heart, but the counsel of the Lord, it will stand. And so that's the determination. Second, administration. Administration is one of the words, similar words that are used, and some other theologians use different words, such as stewardship or economy of the Bible. Okay? And it is the management and dispensation or economy that God uses to fulfill His determined will. Okay? I will explain to you why economy. Administration. Should I go back? 3, 2, 1. Administration in Greek is oikonomia. Oikonomia is a compound word of oikos, which means house or home or household, and nomos, which means law, order, and regulation. So oikonomia is order in the house. Things that happen in the house. House chores. Right? Literally means to manage a house or to administer a household or to keep a household in order. This is basically what moms and dads do in the house. Physically, visibly, we put things neatly in order, but we also put our family members in order, making sure nobody's in trouble, making sure that the children grow up with right mannerism, making sure that there is an order, hierarchy, some kind of hierarchy, which reverses when time comes. Do you understand what that means? That is the head of the house, right? But when time comes, that is the last in the house. No? So making sure that the family goes the right direction, thinks the same way, has the right philosophy, and so on. So reference, this oikonomia, this word is where the English word economy comes from. Oikonomia, economy. When you say economy, you think about money. It's a management of it's an administration or management of how your income and spending happens. Right? But it's not, economy is not only used in terms of money. It is management and administration of business or country or even a family. And so the word oikonomia is administration or economy. Oikonomos is steward. Who's a steward? Steward is not a slave. There's a different Greek word for a slave. It's a steward who takes charge in place of the owner. Right? When the owner is away, it's the steward that takes charge in the house, kind of like Joseph in Potiphar's house. Right? Making sure that the house is kept in order, making sure that things are not stolen, and broken things are fixed. Okay? Steward is the one who is responsible and in charge of the house. So in terms of kingdom, a steward can play the role of a king when the king is absent. Right? When the main king, the head king, there's a king, definitely a real king, but when the king is out in war or ill in his bed, then there's somebody who takes regent, right? Takes place of the king and rules in place of him. Or even when the king is still well and alive, sometimes the king says to the son or to somebody, you do the actual ruling. I'll just sit on the throne and sit behind you and watch you and make sure that everything is good. He's the figurehead, but then there's the actual ruler. Right? That's the word oikonomia, oikonomos. Okay? So, can you think of the Garden of Eden? God created Adam, and He said, govern the creation. You rule over. Multiply, what did He say? Multiply, be fruitful and multiply, and rule over the earth and all things in it, right? Basically, God says, this is my kingdom. I created it. However, I put you in charge of this. But what happened? He lost charge. He lost that place because he started to serve another king. Right? He became a rebel. He became a traitor of the nation, basically. Right? And as a result, we are not in the place of ruling over the creation. We're being ruled over right now. So redemption history is God's work to put us back into that position. And that's why in this fourth book, in this second section of Jesus' genealogy, we think about the acts of the kings. Are they real kings, or who is the real king of Israel and Judah? The real king is God. Who are these kings? What's the criteria or criterion that will decide, is this a good king or a bad king? And let us think about who is my king today. Who is my king? So in the Bible, there are different occurrences of this word, oikonomia, God's administration in faith. In 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 4, nor to pay attention to myths and endless genealogies, which give rise to mere speculation rather than furthering the administration of God, which is by faith. Administration of God, meaning God is administering, making sure things are happening according to His will and by faith. Administration of grace, God administers grace to us if indeed you have heard of the stewardship, that's the same word, oikonomia, heard of the stewardship of God's grace, which was given to me for you. So God administers by faith. So basically He gives us faith, and He allows us to follow His ways and His decree by faith. And He not only administers faith to us, but He administers grace to us. So that even with weakness and sinfulness, we can still follow Jesus Christ. But He gives a greater grace, therefore it says, God is opposed to the proud, but gives grace to the humble. And then administration of mystery and secret. This is part of the title of the book, administration of mystery. Ephesians 3:8, to me, the very least of all saints, this grace was given to preach to the Gentiles the unfathomable riches of Christ, and to bring to light what is the administration of the mystery, which for ages has been hidden in God. So this mystery that is hidden in God, He administers to reveal it to us. So verse 10, in order that the manifold wisdom of God might now be made known through the church to the rulers and the authorities in the heavenly places. Administration in the fullness of time. God administers according to time. Because He created time, He works within that time. Do you agree God's timing is perfect? Although at times we say, oh, come on, God, it seems like you're too late. Can you chop, hurry up? Right? But when He actually does His work and gives us His answer, then we realize, oh my gosh, it could not have been any better timing. It's just perfect timing. God knows exactly when the beginning and the end is. He knows when we need things. And so let us believe that He administers in the fullness of time. Ephesians 1:9, He made known to us the mystery of His will, according to His kind intention which He purposed in Him. Have you heard an expression, this is my season for doing this? You know, we follow seasons. That season, Moed in Hebrew, right, is actually a sign in time that shows us the will of God. Okay? And God made 4 seasons, different seasons, right? In Genesis chapter, I believe 1 verse 14, when God created the sun, moon, and the stars, right? He made the Moed. But season is not just, oh, I feel like doing this or I feel like doing that at that time. But actually, this word is God's feast times. You know, the 3 main feasts and 7 different dates that the biblical Jews have to observe. Those times are called Moed. These times. And guess what? Those times, mainly, those are the times of worship. When God wants His people to gather and truly worship His congregationally. And so, time, purpose of the existence of time is to let us know when to come and worship Him. Let us know that we need to come into His time. Mark chapter 1 verse 15, the time is fulfilled and the kingdom of God is at hand. Repent and believe in the gospel. God, the time is fulfilled. Galatians chapter 4 verse 4 also tells us, at the fullness of the time, Christ came to us. And then administration bestowed on me. Colossians chapter 1 verse 25, of this church I was made a minister according to the stewardship from God bestowed on me for your benefit, that I might fully carry out the preaching of the Word of God. So, this ministry or the task when God bestows on us His administration, I believe we are receiving the blessing of being able to partake in fulfilling God's will. I pray and bless you in the name of the Lord that everyone here will receive this blessing and bestowal of God's administration. Amen. So that we can be a part of His work. Amen. Third, covenant. We'll go through this covenant quickly because I'll re-explain it towards the end. Covenant is the link or method through which the history of redemption is fulfilled on the foundation of God's administration. So God wills, determines, and He administers to make sure that what He determined is fulfilled. And in doing so, event by event and time by time, there has to be some kind of link, continuity. And that continuity is made by this covenant. He makes covenant in every generation, with every main person of faith. And you can categorize covenant in many different ways, but here are a few. Sovereign covenant. He says, it's my covenant. Nobody is able to touch it. It's mine. Nobody can change it. Nobody can alter it. Nobody can cancel it. This is my covenant. The sovereignty of the covenant of the Lord. And therefore, the promise, the covenant that God has made to us is sure, is certain. Nobody can nullify it. Amen? There are different types of covenants. Three main types of covenants are, first, suzerainty covenant. Basically, suzerain vassal treaty relationship. Do you understand? Suzerain and vassal. Big country conquers a small country and says, you pay tribute to me, I protect you. Suzerain vassal relationship. Okay. And then there is a contract, parallel relationship contract, business contract. You give me this, I give you that. Contract. And then there is a grant. You don't have to do anything, I give you. God's covenant is A, B, or C? C. That's what you wish. Nothing is for free. But it is true. Covenant that Jesus gives us, covenant that God makes with Abraham, it seems to follow the system of the contract, suzerain vassal treaty. It's in the format, but it's missing one thing. Missing the signature of the other party, our party. In today's terms. In his contract, he makes everything. I give you blessing, you obey me, and so on. But then, it's always God signing it off, and then He never tells us to sign our life away. He only tells us, I want your heart. I want you to obey me. I want you to come under, trust me. But He never makes us sign our life away. Only God signs it. For example, with the covenant of the torch that He makes with Abraham, in the vassal treaty agreement, you cut the animal pieces in two, so it's a bloodshed. But two pieces, there's an alley between the two pieces. Both parties have to walk through. But God said, do that. God told Abraham to cut these pieces, meaning both parties to walk through and say, if I break this treaty, I become like that. You tear me up. Right? I give my life, I promise. Not only make you promise, I give my life on this treaty to make sure that I fulfill the promise. Who came between in the covenant that God made with Abraham? the torch, right, which represents the presence of God. Back and forth. But Abraham never walks across. That's the signature, right? God signs it. God, there's all the items, right? Stipulations. God says, you do this, I bless you. But then he says, I sign my life away. I don't require you to sign my life away. So that's what sovereign covenant means. And it's eternal covenant. I personally take it as two things. Eternal covenant is a covenant that will give us eternity. Also, this covenant is eternal because there is no one who can cancel it and nullify it. Covenant of vow and oath speaks about the bond of the covenant, how strong and sure and certain the covenant is. And then fourth, it's the covenant remembered. Every time God comes to save Israel, he says, God remembered the promise he made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Even when he came to save the Israelites out of Egypt, he comes and says, God remembered Abraham, his promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God remembers. And God shows mercy. Luke chapter 1 verse 72. This is about the proclamation declaration about the coming Jesus, the Jesus who is to be born, to show mercy toward our fathers and to remember his holy covenant. Even Jesus is coming onto this earth because God remembered. Do you have a tendency to forget things? And do you blame your age for them? I recently heard a psychologist talk about this. We often blame our age for not remembering things. He says, don't blame your age. You are already like that. but it's not age. It's because as we age or as we get older, there are so many more things that our brain has to hold. So it's not the age, it's not that our brain cells are dying and our memories are dying. It's because our brains are filled with so many more things to remember, and sometimes it's so busy that it cannot categorize things very well. But amazing thing about our brain, do you think you're smarter than your computer or you're smarter than your computer? What? Do you think you're smarter than the computer or your computer is smarter than you? Can I just, out of my curiosity, raise your hand if you think you're smarter than your computer. Wow, very proud people here. Prove it, how do you prove it? Okay, let me prove it to you. What is the capital city of Singapore? Wow, very good. Singapore? What is the capital city of the United States? What's the capital city of Zimbabwe? How long did it take you to say, I don't know? Very fast. Immediate. Out of all the data that's in your brain, how did you find out? If you ask the computer, it has to do search. Do I have this data? Do I know this? Do I not know this? For a very long time, depending on how fast your computer is, but it cannot immediately say, I don't know that. Your brain, God created your brain to be much faster than Pentium 4. Is there anybody who doesn't know that language, Pentium 4? Anyway, even we human beings remember really well. But God, this is promise, covenant is remembered by God. So you don't have to worry. I wonder if God forgot. Did God forget? That's why is that why He's not giving me the answer? No. It's because His administration is according to the fullness of time. Now, finally, providence. Providence is God's specific acts for the achievement of His determined will. Basically, His intercessory work, His involvement in the history of mankind to make sure that His will is administered properly and His covenant is fulfilled. In English word, providence, provideo. Do you understand? What's pro? Pro in front or before. Video. What's video? Something you see and hear. To see before. To see ahead of the time. Yes? In Hebrew it's ra'ah. To prepare beforehand or to see beforehand. In Greek it's problepo. Problepo, it means to take or see beforehand. So providence is Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Jireh. When Abraham was about to sacrifice Isaac on that mount in Moriah, God prepared a ram. Okay? And Abraham called that place Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Jireh. But in the English form is providence of God. Providence of God. So God sees where we need to go or what is going to happen to us and provides and prepares beforehand. And so these are the things that God does in this history of mankind to make sure that His will of redemption is fulfilled. And so in the work of providence, there's preservation, preserving or maintaining all the universe and all things that God has created in order. His work of preservation. And cooperation, God's absolute will, power, and subordinate powers of the universe working together for the good. Okay. Romans chapter 8, verse 28, to those who love God, all things come together for good. In Christ, who love Christ. Conclusion, God's ultimate will and plan is to establish His kingdom where His people are under His sovereignty in eternal time. That's the purpose of His redemptive work in the history of redemption. The basic elements for establishing a kingdom, people, land, and sovereignty. So, He is, through these, we learn about His decree or determination, His administration, His covenants, and His providence. Through these, God is establishing, building up His house. Remember? Oikonomia. He's building up His house. So, what He is doing, I will tell you this and finish. What He is doing is building a house. When you build a house, you're the designer. You're the great designer. God is the great designer. The great designer has in his head what this house will look like. Every single corner and every part of this house. And so he puts it on the paper, and that is called blueprint. That is the will of God written on the Bible. Okay? That is the will of God. Now, is the house finished? He just puts the plan on the paper. That is the plan. That is a great will. That needs to be fulfilled. That needs to be materialized. And who does that? Who do you have to find? When you're trying to build a church or a house, you have a great design in your head. You gonna do it? If you need to hire contractors. You need workers. So God involves His people. But will those workers work for you for free? No. There has to be some kind of contract. He hires people to administer. He's the project manager. He's the manager, right? The oikonomia, the manager, economy. He's the manager of the entire project, but he has people to actually do the work because this is within human history. The contractors. But those contractors will not work unless you sign a contract, covenant. That's what motivates them to do the work within a certain time. Right? There's a time frame of building the house. There's a beginning and the end. The owner knows when is the beginning and when is the end. And the contractor is given that time to finish. If you finish in that time, I give you something. Okay? So we have come in as stewards to do that work. And the covenant is, we thought, how much we bid for this price. We tender for that pricing. But as time goes by, we got hired. We thought we got hired. We thought he was our master. We were only workers. But he says, towards the end of the process, he says, this is actually a house where you're going to live. Your attitude changes. And he says, I still give you the amount that I promised you, but you will also live here with me. This is your house. That's the covenant. Covenant is something amazing because throughout the Bible, covenant is made when people sin. When was the covenant made? After Adam sinned. To restore. Covenant was made, the covenant of circumcision in Genesis chapter 17 was made when? After Genesis chapter 16. But what happened in Genesis chapter 16? Abraham had Ishmael. Right? But after years, 13, 14 years of silence, all of a sudden, Genesis chapter 17, verse 1, God comes to Abraham, and he says, you shall sin no more. Do not sin before me. And then he gives a covenant of circumcision. God promises Abraham, you will have many descendants, and I will give you this land. Abraham asks, how do I know that you will give me this land? God says, okay, bring me those animals and the covenant of the torch. We fast forward, and they did not believe in Jesus. They killed Jesus on the cross. But Jesus says, this is my covenant, the new covenant of blood. It's a sign of restoration. It's also a sign of new era, of new beginning. But God does not throw away His people, but He restores. It's a promise that He will restore us even though we betrayed Him. And one example is Genesis chapter 3 verse 15. God's first messianic covenant after the fall. He says, your seed, speaking to the serpent, your seed, there will be enmity between your seed and the woman's seed. This amazing covenant, just now, Adam betrayed God to become friends with Satan. But God gives a covenant that will break them apart. This covenant makes sure that Adam and the serpent do not stay as friends. Isn't that magical? Isn't that amazing? He says he gives a covenant making sure that Adam will come back to God. That's the covenant of love. And so through that covenant, but when building that house, we realize it's Him who keeps on coming and providing things to make sure that the house is well done well. And throughout the history of the kings that we see in the second section of Jesus' genealogy, those are the stewards, oikonomos, people who are supposed to represent God, the managers, project managers for God's house. But what do? We will find out soon. And the criteria is, do they represent God? Do they realize they are only region kings? Do they realize there's a greater king? One great thing about David was that he did realize that.